Welcome back to Up. I'm David Gura. John Hickenlooper, the former governor of Colorado, is in New Hampshire this weekend. I spent some time following him around on Friday. He released his campaign's economic plan, and he fielded questions from voters about a number of issues, including the Mueller report and impeachment, topics I returned to when I sat down with the candidate at a diner in Nashua at the end of the day. There's been a big discussion in recent days about what should happen to the Attorney General in light of the testimony that he gave on Capitol Hill.
You mean what should happen after he's fired?
So my question is, are you among those calling for his impeachment, his removal at this point?
You know, I usually try to restrain those kinds of, bleacher seat commentary. But, he is clearly not representing the American people, and that is his primary responsibility. I understand he's appointed by the president. I understand there's a relationship. But if you go back and look at what happened around Watergate, and there are any number of documentaries to watch these days on cable, on all the streaming media, I mean, clearly, rule by law, where the Attorney General has to be, Archibald Cox stood up, and he was responsible to the American people, not to President Nixon. And we should expect no less of our Attorney General today.
Nancy Pelosi on Friday said impeachment is not off the table. As you sit here looking ahead to the election, do you think it should be? Is there a point at which the window closes and your message would be, let's focus on 2020, let's stop talking about impeachment, or do you think that it is something that should stay on the table?
Well, certainly so far we're still getting information. I mean, the letter that came out this week that Robert Mueller wrote saying, you've mischaracterized my entire report. That's an interesting new piece of information. Let's see the unredacted report. Why is it that at least Congress should get to see it? Why can't the American people see it? Why can't we get Mr. Mueller to testify before Congress? Why can't we get the Attorney General to testify again before Congress?
You talk a lot about your experience as an executive, as a mayor, as a governor. One of your proposals is to make a new federal minimum wage, make it $15 an hour, but scale it to cost of living around the country as well. You've worked with other mayors in the past. You've, as governor, worked with mayors. What gives you optimism that were you to be elected president, you'd be able to do what seems so difficult this day and age, that is to work with the legislative branch? In other words, it seems so intractable. How do you propose to change that?
Well, but everybody thinks, I'm running for president because we are in a crisis of division. I mean that. We are more divided than we've been since the Civil War. And, and it's keeping us from addressing things like climate change or automation, artificial intelligence, what that's going to do to the workplace. And I feel I've got that track record. And everyone said it was impossible, but that track record of bringing people together. When I ran for mayor, and I was at 4% for the first 7 weeks, no one thought I'd never run for student council or anything. And suddenly here I was, I broke out, I was ahead, and people said, well, just because you got elected, you preached that you're going to work with the suburban mayors. Most of them are Republicans, they hate Denver, Denver hates them. I went out and I talked to the suburban mayors. We got all 34 mayors, 2/3 of them Republicans or conservative independents. We got all 34 mayors to unanimously support fast tracks, 122 miles of new track. That's the only place in the country where we had, a regional effort like that for something that mattered.
You mentioned your early polling when you were running for mayor. I imagine you're aware of your polling now.
It's almost identical. Well, then I started out 3% for the first couple of months, or first couple of weeks, and then I got up to 4%. But that's where I stayed right up until I broke out. I feel I'm different than any of the other candidates running. I've run a business. I was out of work for 2 years. I know what that means. I put together really successful teams, both as a small business person and as a mayor and a governor. And we've been able to achieve things that people thought were impossible.
Are you weighing it all running for Senate if this doesn't work out?
It's awful hard to imagine that I could be successful in a Senate campaign or as a senator. What I love and what I'm willing to sacrifice, I've been a public servant now for 16 years. It's 70 hours a week. I can't imagine a week when I didn't work at least 65 hours, and I love it. I'm not complaining. But I'm putting teams together. I'm attracting the most talented people, and I don't care whether they're Republicans or Democrats, whether they're tall or short, where they came from, business people, academics, nonprofits. We put teams together, and then we decide that to achieve the unachievable, and then I hold them accountable. We do it. We create a plan and we do it. I love that. I find that spiritually transforming. A senator doesn't get to do that. A senator has to go to Washington, and it's vitally important what they do to debate and try to improve the laws that govern this country is some of the most important work you can do. But it wouldn't bring me any kind of satisfaction or delight. And life's too short. I mean, I'm willing to sacrifice a huge amount of my private life because I love what I'm doing and I feel it's really meaningful. Being a senator would be meaningful, but I'd hate it.
That's a no. You wouldn't consider it.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.